Okay.
Real estate agent, are you looking to acquire clients consistently so you can grow your business and your income to live a great lifestyle? This is Dave Finale and the RE Skill Builder Podcast.
And good morning, everybody. Here we are. It is Real Estate Talk TGIF. It is Friday, December 10th. Real Estate Talk TGIF number 183. That's 183 episodes in 180 weeks. 180 weeks in a row, Sal. How about that?
That's impressive.
It's really cool. I'm really excited about it. Every week is just another new, not always new face, but just a new week. Just a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to keep it going. So it's 180 weeks in a row. The question I have for you, Sal, as we get started, TGIF. What does that stand for?
Thank God it's Friday, right?
Well, you're close. You're so close, right? And it's the answer everybody gives. It's thank God it's finale, right?
There you go. There you go.
Thank God it's finale. So that's how we started. Salvatore Ventre, thank you so much for being on. Sal, you and I have met over the last few months, and we became friends. We've worked together a little bit on some events, and we've gotten to know a little bit about each other. But this is not about me. This is about the way we can give value back to the people that watch this broadcast, because the reason I do this is so that I can give value to agents and help them with their businesses. So, Sal, one of the things I always think helps people is to tell people where you came from so they can see that, no one's alone. So talk to me about your start. Now, it's rental agent to luxury agent. Talk to me about, before that, what you did before you got into business and where you came from.
Yeah. So first, thank you for having me, Dave. I appreciate it. I've been in real estate about 11 years now at this point. I'm 33 years old. So I first went and got my license when I was 22. I was very young. I, at the time, was running a frozen yogurt business. So out of college, I have always been entrepreneurial. Out of college, I ended up getting a small business loan as well as a family loan. And we opened up a frozen yogurt business where, a lot of people are familiar with it. You make it yourself, you put it on the scale, you pay by the weight. So I had one of those, 13 years ago and 12 years ago now. And for the first year, it was exciting. It was fun. But naturally, in the wintertime, it started to get slow. And I started to read different books. And I read probably the most cliche, most known book in the world, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That got me interested into real estate. And it just got me kind of, my mind was going, and I was wondering what I could do with this. And so I originally got my real estate license because I wanted to flip houses. So I figured, let me get my license. Let me learn as much as I could. And so that's what I did. I got my license. And fortunately, while I was in the class, the teacher took a liking to me, who introduced me to a local broker at the time. He actually took me under his wing, and I started selling real estate. That was not my original plan, but I started selling real estate. And I was pretty much addicted. From there, I sold the frozen yogurt business 6 months later, and I've been doing real estate full time for the last 10 years since I was 23. Getting into real estate at 23 was not the easiest thing in the world, especially at the time that it was. It was 2011, and going into 2012. And so the market, had just kind of crashed a couple of years prior, or still at the very bottom. Things weren't great. I was a young kid. None of my friends were buying homes. I was 23 years old. I actually, fun fact, still lived at home when I got my real estate license. So I kind of felt like, geez, this is weird. I'm selling people houses, and I've never even bought my own house. But I did. I did what I could, and I started doing a bunch of rentals because that was my demographic, my age group. I started selling rental properties. Shortly after I got licensed, Hurricane Sandy had actually affected our area really bad. So that forced a lot of people to look for rentals. So that's what I did a lot of my first year. I sold a few homes my first year, but it was a slow start like anything else. And for me, I was a young kid. I didn't have much money. I didn't have much knowledge or experience in the business. And so the one thing that I did know was social media. At the time, real estate agents were not really on social media. There wasn't a lot of people on social media in general.
Right.
But a lot of people looked down on it. They thought it was a waste of time. Stupid. But for me, that's all I knew. It's what I knew how to do, and it was free. So I figured this is free advertising for me, free publicity. And it's a way for me to network with people that I couldn't be in front of physically every single day. So that really helped, I think, catapult my business, my brand, my reputation, because I was very, very consistent on social media for the last 10 years. I used, catchy taglines and hashtags and things that I started to become known for around town. I'd walk into a restaurant or something. I used to use the hashtag Better Call Sal, because the show Better Call Saul was very popular at the time. And so I would go into a restaurant, and people that I had no idea, they would be like, "You're Better Call Sal," and so it just kind of stuck. Fast forward to, now 10, 11 years later, I've got a team of 30 agents. We're now with EXP, which has been an incredible move. And we're growing every day, basically. Next year we should definitely sell, 300, 400, 500 homes. So I'm really excited how everything has changed and shifted in my career. And I'm really looking forward to the next 10 years.
Well, you've made went always through stuff, and you've gone through social media. And I remember years ago when social media had just started, and I was getting pushed back from my agents, from my brokerage. They would always say, "Well, I'm not going to get anything out of it. I don't want to do it. It's this, that, and the other thing." And I said to them, and this was about, I'm going to say, since I sold it 4 years ago, I'm going to say about 9 years ago, I said, the ROI of you not being on social media in 5 years is that you basically will be out of the business. And basically that was true for a lot of my agents that thought they were top agents doing 20, 25 deals.
Yeah.
It was cut in less than half,
Yeah.
And they're struggling to make a living. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, Sal, but I'm sure you'll agree how important social media is, because let's face it, those who understand that it's free know how to use it, right?
Right.
So
I think it's totally instrumental, especially today. Social media has come a long way. I know for me, my wife and I, we won't even book a hotel or go to a restaurant without looking at their social media. We want to see, how active are they? What are they doing? It's kind of, I refer to social media when I'm talking to my team and people that I coach as the modern day resume, right? Like that's kind of like your resume now. So, and the beauty of social media, and I talk about this, when I'm doing any keynote speeches or things like that, because I fortunately have transitioned into, predominantly selling, higher end properties now myself. And I think that's partly because I strategically positioned my brand and my marketing and everything to be that way, and to be, perceived as luxury. And so that's, I think, the beauty of social media is you're in control. Right? Like, it is your resume, but you're in control of what people are seeing, and you can put out, I guess, for better or worse, any message that you want. But I think a lot of people fail at staying consistent with their brand and thinking about what their long-term goal is,
right,
and then everything else, putting that towards that and in that same direction.
Right, exactly. So you build your business, you go from living at home, building your business, moving forward, and just building your brand, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me. I mean, when you bring in agents to your company, what is important to you for agents that you're going to work with in your team? What's important for them to be? What's important for them to do?
So I feel like we've mastered and figured out a really good system in our team.
Right.
That covers all aspects of being a real estate agent and everything that you need to be successful. I think the biggest factor in agents is just that willingness to work, that hunger, and that, there's some people that can hold themselves accountable and come to work every day and really put in a lot of effort, and those people always succeed. But there's a lot of people in our business that struggle with holding themselves accountable. They struggle with sticking to a set schedule and a calendar. I want people that are disciplined and motivated and are hungry as hell to succeed. Everything else I can teach you. Everything else our systems will support and guarantee that you're successful if you just stay consistent and put in the work. There's far too many agents that I know that they complain that they're not selling homes or they're not doing business, and it's simply because they're just not putting in the work. We can do everything to help support them, but if they're not going to physically show up and be there and do the things we tell them to do, it's just not going to work.
So you're telling me that if they come to work and work a consistent time frame and do the individual things, that they're going to be successful. That's it. That's all there is to it.
Crazy, right?
I agree. That's why I've always said, I want the attitude, right? The willingness, you said, holding themselves accountable. And, holding themselves accountable has a lot to do with their own responsibilities to themselves, their family, et cetera, et cetera. So that is really important. So what you're saying is, if you've got the motivation, we can teach you the skills.
Absolutely. I mean, I did the amount of things that I did earlier on in my career for $0 and, just trying to go above and beyond for my clients, knowing that I wasn't going to get paid or it might not turn out to anything. It blows my mind to see newer agents. They don't want to go above, the bare minimum if they don't think there's a paycheck attached to it. And it's crazy to me. Like, I always thought very long-term, very, I wasn't in this just for a quick buck and to get in and out. I wanted this to be my career. And so I feel like I left a lot of money on the table or did certain things in the beginning that a lot of people weren't willing to do, but it's paid off tremendously in the long run because I became known for, the agent that was willing to do anything and everything for my clients. And I would, do the things that most people wouldn't, even if it meant that, in the short term, I was going to suffer. I just kind of always trusted. And I think that's a lot of, back to what you said about social media and why a lot of people feel that it doesn't work or something like that. It's hard to measure branding, right? And reputation and things like that. You can't measure it. And so people will post on social media a couple times or run a couple ads and say, well, no one called me directly from that post and said, hey, I'm calling you because you posted this. And so it doesn't work. And that's just not the way branding is, and if you can't understand that, it's going to be hard for you to create a brand and to, excel in marketing. I've always felt one of my strongest points was the marketing end of it. I'm not the smartest guy in the room or anything like that, but I understand marketing. I understand how to get clients and what people want when they're working with you. And for me, it was always just, making the client, the customer first and providing excellent customer service. And if I could do that, I didn't have to be the smartest or, remember every statistic or something. Right.
No, exactly. Because, it's when you talk about, I want to hit social media and the branding thing, because that's really important. And you said it, you said it. Basically, it's not the only thing that is going to be out there for you for people to see. Like, I train and coach on a process I call the SOI method. It's all about sphere of influence. And it's not just one thing. It's not just calling the people you know. It's not just sending postcards. It's not just doing this. It's not just social. It's taking everything and putting it together.
Exactly.
And saying, okay, so once a quarter, I'm going to at least send a postcard. Then I'm going to call them on the phone. I'm going to send them a note. Then I'm going to email them every week. I'm going to send them market statistics, this, that, and the other thing. I'm going to be taking those same things and putting it on social, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the point, because you can't build a brand by just like sending out, okay, so this is me. It's like Budweiser, okay? So if you look at Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, you look at their ads throughout the year. Now, if you're into sports, you're going to see more of their ads than most people will. But you'll notice that the ads change with seasons. They build a brand, they build a relationship with their customer. And I always tell people, says, well, you know what? People know me in this town. I don't have to advertise there. And my response to that is bullshit. You need to advertise there more. Just think about this, right?
Exactly.
If Budweiser stopped advertising and you didn't see the Clydesdale commercials during Christmas, you might stop buying Budweiser because you don't see them.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. It's all about being top of mind.
Right. Exactly. So as you and I have met each other and grown and done events together, there's some things that you talk about that are really interesting to me on stage and and it's your principles and the things that you do. Would you be so kind as to go through those things
Sure.
for everybody here? That'd be great.
Sure, yeah. I like to refer to it as the 4 Ps, right? So
Right.
I've got performance, peers, perception, and presentation. So one of the things that I was taught early on, I was fortunate to have some pretty good mentors in the business and people to look up to. But I've kind of always been this way. But one thing that I realized and was taught was that presentation of not just presentation of the product is extremely important. And in real estate, we have 2 products. We have the homes that we sell, and we sell ourselves, right? And so I always made it a point to, number one, make sure that I was always extremely professional. I was always presented myself in a good way. And so that meant from the very beginning. Now, see, I also was very young. And so I felt like I had to do something to prove to people that I wasn't just a kid, right? And so everywhere that I went, knowing that for me, one of the things that I thought was amazing with real estate was that everyone in the world can be a potential customer or client, because everyone has to live somewhere. And so I always thought, like, how cool is it that no matter where I went, I could be bumping into clients and getting new clients. And so that, to me, I felt like, I guess, double-edged sword, but I kind of felt like I was always working 24/7. I was always on, right? That's my thing, like always on. And so I always, everywhere that I went, I wanted to look like I was working and professional. And so I was in a suit everywhere, every day. It didn't matter if I had no appointments or if I was home at that end of the day and then had to run back out to the grocery store, I would put back on a suit to go to the grocery store. Like, I always made sure that, because one of the things that was taught to me too, is you're always one person or one relationship away from a completely new life, right? You never know who you're going to meet that can change your life. And so I always wanted to be ready for that at all times. And and it did help, honestly, change my reputation, because everywhere that I went, people were like, "What are you doing? Why are you in a suit?" "I'm working." That was always my response. "I'm working," or "I just came from an appointment," or "I have an appointment after this." And so after a little bit of time, people were just like, "Geez, Sal never stops, man. He's a hustler. He's always working. He's always meeting with clients. Like, we got to work with this guy." And so the presentation of myself was always super important. And then presentation of the product, I felt was always extremely important as well, in an effort to get me new business after that. And so what I mean is, when I first got into business, again, 10, 11, 12, professional real estate photography wasn't very popular. There was only a handful of agents that were doing it. It was typically the top producers, because no one else wanted to pay the money for it. They thought it was pointless. They thought it was stupid. And me, I always just felt like, wow, this is necessary, 100%. And so every listing that I took, from the very first listing that I ever had professional photography. I was one of the first to start doing the twilight photography at night with the lights on. I always felt putting in more money into marketing would help me in the long run. And this is something that I preach to my team as well. One of the things that I was taught by my prior broker and mentor, Chris Walsh, was, it's not a cost, right? Like, I'm not spending more money on this house. It's an investment, and it's marketing and it's advertising. And so for me, I would talk to an agent that would say, "Well, geez, that's a $6,000 commission and you're spending $1,000 in marketing. That's crazy. I could sell it and only spend $100 using photos from my phone." And I always thought, well, yeah, maybe for that deal, you might net a few extra $100, but I'm going to get so many more clients than you, because they see that I have a superior product. And that's exactly what happened. And so the presentation of myself and the homes that I was representing was always extremely important to me. And I think that actually eventually helped me break into the luxury market, because I was treating these, entry-level, average-priced homes as if they were multi-million-dollar listings, and going so above and beyond with the marketing that the people in the luxury market took notice. And they were like, well, wow, if he's going to do that for a $300,000 house, I can't imagine what he's going to do for my $2 million house. and
Right.
it worked. And so that is one of the things that's super important, is the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about changing it back into a suit. I remember years ago, I was on a construction site, then fixing toilets, then I had to go to a meeting. So I would go from work clothes to a suit to work clothes. I've even been seen plowing snow in a suit. So,
I love it.
yeah.
So that's the 1P. The next one is peers. And so again, something that was taught to me by, my prior broker, and just learning from different people is, kind of like that cliche rule of 5, right? Like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so
Jim Rohn,
I realized after, a couple years in the business, and really only doing business with my peers, people that I grew up with and were friends with, and that wasn't cutting it, because 23, 24, 25-year-old kids weren't buying and selling luxury homes. And I was like, I got to do something about this. And so I didn't stop, being friends and hanging out with those people, but I purposely and, strategically and consciously would place myself in different environments. And I started to become friends with people that were much more successful than me, much older than me, were in places that I wanted to be and I could learn from.
Right.
And as soon as I started doing that, my business definitely changed. I forced myself to, get memberships at golf clubs and different things, even when I couldn't afford it, just because I wanted to be surrounded by those types of people. And it 100% not only changed my business in a sense of getting me those types of clients, but it really just changed my mindset and how I ran my business and my life in general, because these were guys now that are, successful business owners with families, that their lives and their daily routines were completely different than what I was used to as a 23, 24-year-old kid living in my mom's basement. Like, it was totally different. Right. And so
Right.
I started to look up to these guys and started to structure my days the same, and my life and business just completely changed. So, the people that I surrounded myself with, my peers, was very important and instrumental in me getting to that next level as well. So that's the second one. The third one is perception. So just like I was talking about earlier with social media, we have the power to kind of position ourselves any way that we want. And, the public's perception of us is very important. People want to work with people that are like them, that they like, that they think they can trust. And so, I try to stay away from, and, there's some people that don't like this, but I try to stay away from controversial topics and politics and things like that on social media. I try to show people that I'm a family man, and, show the real me. I know a lot of people, they try to, I don't know, maybe show off or something on social media, and they post pictures of them partying and doing things like that, and making kind of really off-color remarks and stuff. And I always just felt that was such a bad way to position yourself to the public, and that's really what it is. And so for me, I always wanted to, have everyone perceive me as someone that was successful, trustworthy, that someone that was likable and they wanted to work with. And so everything that I would post on social, do in my outside life, places that I would go, how I would dress, people, everything was in an effort to have that perception of me being a top real estate agent. And eventually it happened.
Yeah, I think when it comes to perception, Sal, you hit the nail on the head. People out there drinking and stuff. I mean, you and I both saw examples of how not to act at a convention recently.
Yeah.
And when I've always had several rules. My first rule is absolutely positively no politics. The second rule is no alcohol, right? And it's not that I don't want people to think that I'm a fun guy. It's just that, no one needs to see me at parties with a drink in my hand, right? They'll see me at parties. They'll see me, cooking and having fun with family and stuff. But no one seems to see that other stuff.
Sure.
And then two other things is cursing is another thing with perception. Now, I do it from time to time. It doesn't take up. Let's put it this way: I curse less on social than I do in private life. So I mean, look at it that way. But and the other thing is how do you, like you said, how do you want to be known and perceived as someone that's commenting on stuff, someone that's stirring the shit, so to speak. There we go. I'm cursing again, right? So, and then, I mean, think about it. I mean, every time I do something, I read it back to myself.
Yeah.
And I say, does this make sense? Is this what I want to put out there? And you know what? I get it off my chest. I delete it and don't post it. That's what most people should do.
It blows my mind when I see real estate agents complaining about their job or their clients on social media. And I'm like, oh my God, if I was not a real estate agent and I saw this, I would think to myself, geez, I would never want to work with this person, because what if they put my business out there for everyone to see? Like, it's crazy what people do to me. It's
right, exactly. And here's the other thing. I mean, when you talk about perception, right? So you want to be perceived as a person who's a professional and in the real estate business. There's so many agents, I go to their pages, their personal profiles, and it says nothing about real estate. There's no way to contact them. Not even, or if they do have something, it's got their company name, but not their brand or their page or that kind of stuff. And I don't understand it. And I say to them, I said, are you always going to be a secret agent? They say, what do you mean? I said, well, you don't have a business page. Oh yeah, I have a business page. Sure I do. How are people going to find it? Well, everybody knows it. I said, no, they don't.
Right.
Right. And I'm not even saying that that's the most important thing in the world, but let's face it. If people can't find you, I tell people if you make a phone call, okay, Sal, I called you, you're a FSBO, and you want to sell your house, and you and I had a great conversation. Where are you going to check me out?
Social media, Google.
Right. What did you say first? You said social media first, probably Facebook, and then Google.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So chances are they get a better shot of finding you. And well, you know what? I Google agents too, and I still can't find them on Google.
You're right.
So, I mean, we're talking about a very large group of people that want to get in this business. And we said earlier, all you've got to do is do the work. This is part of it.
That's right.
That's a great piece.
Absolutely. Okay. And then the final thing is performance. So, there's a lot of agents that I know that just don't know their business too well, right? They don't know the market. They don't know, so if you want to get into, we're specifically talking about luxury. If you want to get into the luxury market, you need to know about luxury homes. You need to know, how things are built. You need to know about architectural styles. You need to know about, higher end types of finishes and things. And so I think one of the things that helped me a lot, not just get into the luxury market, but just sell more homes in general was, and I think, due to the fact that I was younger, I was a single guy when I first started. I had a lot of free time. And so when I would get home, from the hours of 7 to 10, 11 o'clock at night, instead of watching TV shows and movies and stuff, because I was so addicted to real estate, I spent almost every night watching YouTubes, reading different books and audiobooks and podcasts, and really just worked on personal development and worked on all of my knowledge as a real estate agent. And so I used to watch hours and hours and hours of FSBO calls, expired calls from other agents doing them. And I wanted to know every single objection in the world, how to handle everything, different options for different personalities, and so what that did also, it made me become really good at listing presentations. And so I got really confident that if I could get in front of someone and sit down at their table, I mean, there was a time, I still probably like 95% of the time I'm getting that listing. And that was because I spent hours and hours and hours learning and preparing and, working on that personal growth part of it and knowing and perfecting my craft, so that when I got the chance, so when I put myself in the right peer groups and the perception was right and the presentation was right and I got that opportunity, then I was able to actually perform and close that deal or get that client. There's a lot of people that they don't put in those hours to perfect their craft and prepare, and then they get in front of someone and they're not going to get that chance because they just don't know what they're doing. And so I think, part of your day as a real estate agent, especially if you're a newer agent, but any agent, should be personal growth and learning your craft and developing. I mean, I still, to this day, one of my sales managers on my team, he's big into role play as well. Almost every single day that we're in the office, we're role playing different scenarios with clients. And I'm not even in production nearly as much as I was anymore because I'm so focused on running my team, but I love it. I want to be able to have a response for every single objection or any concern that a client may have. And I still do it to this day. And I know agents that are brand new or agents that are not near where they want to be in their career that have never role played even once, and
Yes.
it's crazy to me.
Right. So, I mean, as we talked about different coaches and stuff, as we talked before we came on the air, I've been very, very pleased to be able and privileged to be able to talk to great coaches throughout the country. And two of them in particular talk about this topic. One is Michael Hellickson, who is the founder and CEO of Club Wealth, and talks about the reason that agents don't really do that well is they don't have a big enough why. And you contrast that with my friend Greg Harrelson from Century 21, the Harrelson Group in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where he talks about agents are not prepared, which is exactly the point that you're talking about. We forget, and I harp on this with my brokerage when I had it, and with agents I work with today. Think about a favorite sports star. Think about a favorite actor. Think about a favorite performer. What are they doing every freaking day? Practicing. Look at Tom Brady. You want to talk about the best of all? He practices even the day of the Super Bowl. Yep. He practices in May. Exactly. He's practicing all the time.
Exactly.
They're the best at what they do, and they're still practicing. You're not the best new agent at what you do. You're not even close. You don't even know what to say, let alone how to say it.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what you're talking about, is being able to perform when the time has come. It's like they'd say, 10 years ago, who do you want up at bat? Tie score, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth. Who do you want up at bat? Me? I'd want Derek Jeter.
Right.
That's me. I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So, I mean, tell me, so you got the 4 Ps, which are performance, peers, perception, presentation. Talk to me a little bit more about peers and the people you're hanging out with and the people you can learn from. What helped you a lot in that respect?
So like I said, when I first got into the business, I spent a lot of my downtime or leisure time with the people that I had, grown up with, or my old friends from the neighborhood and things like that. And I just kind of realized that although I was having a good time and I loved those people, it wasn't really helping me grow as a person or in my career. And so once I got introduced to a couple people and positioned myself to be around business owners, and because that's what I always wanted to be, right? I was always very entrepreneurial. I always knew that I wanted to run my own sort of business one day, and whatever that may be. And so I tried to position myself to be around business owners, people that were more experienced than myself, that I could learn from. And I did. I actually moved out of my mom's basement in my second year of real estate. And I got an apartment in Red Bank, which is about 45 minutes north of where I previously was. And so I didn't know anybody, but it was a much more, professional type of setting, so to speak. And I forced myself to be around those types of people. And it definitely opened my eyes to not only what I should be doing on a day-to-day basis, but also what was actually possible. Because growing up in a small town, I kind of just looked at certain levels of success as almost unattainable and almost like, that's only for the, celebrities and things like that. And then I started being surrounded by just everyday people that were extremely successful. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually possible. Well, what are they doing? And so I really kind of took a notice and, I don't want to say studied, but I was very aware of, the similarities in all of these people, because there were similar things that they all kind of did. And I always knew that it wasn't just a coincidence, right? Like there's certain things that successful people do. So I started waking up a lot earlier. I started reading books. I started, eating healthier, going to the gym, making sure that I was in the office at all times. The first office that I went to, that I started my career with in my hometown, people would stroll in here and there. There was a lot of just, oh, well, I don't have any appointments today, I'm off, and then I started seeing that the people that were really successful were at the office before anyone else every single day, making calls, had stuck to a strict routine, were exercising, going to the gym, getting their mind right. I realized that from being around these people and seeing that it was possible. And I think one of the big things too that I kind of just realized early on was back to social media. Actually, I realized that as a younger kid, young adult, a lot of the pages that I was following and things that I was seeing and popping up on my newsfeed every day were not conducive to where I wanted to be in my future and in my career. And so I kind of did like a clean out and a refresh of my social media, and I unfollowed anything that wasn't gonna kind of be productive or in line with where I wanted to be. And then I loaded up on following, business motivational pages and and top real estate agents and, just motivational speakers and people that were really positive. And it almost just kind of forced me to start thinking that way, because let's be honest, first thing most people do when they wake up in the morning is they check their social media. They're on it all day, every day. And subconsciously, you're consuming all of this information. And so I was like, well, let me just rewire this so that the information that I'm consuming is actually important stuff and relevant to my career and where I want to be in my future. And it's not, just songs and stupid, gossip and things like that. And so that I think helped me a lot too, because again, every time I look at my phone and do what we all do as second nature and look at our social media, for me, every time I open it, it's usually motivational quotes. It's a top producing realtor, posting. And so I get inspired when I look at my social media, and I think that was important.
That's a really, really great point. I would look at a lot of people and say, even myself, I need to clean some things out and move forward with that. So I want to go through types of agents and what your thoughts are on how to help them build their business.
Sure.
First person, new agent. What should they start doing, including social media? What should they start doing to start building a business?
So as a brand new agent, and I don't say this because I run a team, I think you should join a team, because one of the things that I felt was very important for me and for any new agent is to get as much experience as you possibly can, and just learn as much as you can in the beginning. A lot of new agents are worried about commission splits and things that are so irrelevant. I think if you just can put in the work, be consistent, like I said to you earlier, show up every day, and that's another big thing. I hire some new agents and they're like, well, how often should I come into the office? And I'm like, well, do you have any other job? I'm like, no. I'm like, okay, then every day. What do you mean? How often should you be here? What else are you doing? Do you want to succeed or not? And so I think it's literally, as a brand new agent, just showing up, being consistent, and that's it. And I think if you just show up and you're in a group setting, like a team that is there to help you and coach you and show you the ropes, eventually you're going to succeed. But too many people don't show up, or they show up once a week, or they're just not consistent. So as a new agent, I think that's the most important thing. I've hired probably 10 new agents this year, 12 brand new agents that have never sold a home. And the ones that are in the office every day are now selling 2-3 homes a month, in their first year. And the ones that are in and out once or twice a week are not selling much of anything.
See, there it is right there. It's a matter of putting in the time. You said that earlier. Okay. So we've talked about the new agent. What about the stuck agent? The agent that just can't seem to get out of their own way. They're doing a deal a month, et cetera. What about them? They know the ropes? They know what to do. They're stuck. How do we unstuck them, and how do we kick them in the ass?
So I would also argue that those types of people, they're comfortable being comfortable, right? And so if they're selling 10, 12, 15 homes a year, you're most likely, you're paying your bills, you're getting by. And I think that they need to they need to get, again, more strict with their calendar, and get back to the basics. Get back to the basics of, following up. I think if you are in the business for some time and you're doing a consistent 10, 12, 15 homes a year, you've now built up some client database, right? And so you should be working that database as much as you possibly can. What I think is the problem with agents that do 10 or 12 deals is they're making enough money to get by, but they're not making enough money to really pump their marketing and their advertising and things. And so for me, that was a big thing. I semi-joke about it, but it's actually very true. My broker, Chris Walsh, who at the time, he was like, I don't care how much money you have, max out all your fucking credit cards, go get loans from people. I don't care. Just you can't afford, like I used to say to him, I can't afford to do that. And his words would be, no, you can't afford not to do that.
Right.
And so that was something really big for me early on. Like I said, I learned to look at those things as investments rather than costs. And I think a lot of those agents that are doing 10, 12 deals a year, they're not thinking big picture. They're thinking too small. They don't want to spend any extra money on marketing and advertising because they're so afraid that, they're going to lose a couple $100 or something like that. I think that's important. Once you've established yourself to be able to do a dozen deals a year consistently, like you said, you now know what you're doing. You know the ropes. Now it's a matter of getting your name out there, branding yourself, reaching out to. The one thing that blows my mind is people are afraid to pick up the phone. If you've been selling 10 or 12 deals a year consistently for a few years, you've got 50, 60, 70 past clients. You should be calling them on a weekly basis. You should be reaching out to your sphere of influence and talk. You've now gotten over the hump of, does this person know what they're doing? Because a lot of times when you're a brand new agent, people are afraid to, even if they know you're a real estate agent, they're afraid to hire you because they're afraid, right? Like it's a big asset that you're in charge of. And they're like, oh, that person's brand new. I don't know if I can trust them. I don't know if they know what they're doing. If you've been in the business for some time, you're doing a consistent 10, 12 deals, you've already proven yourself to your core sphere of people. So I think on one hand, you need to start focusing on marketing and putting some money towards your investing. But on another hand, you need to tap into your sphere and your past clients, because those are people that know what you do. They've trusted you in the past already. Go work that list. That is such an important list. There was a couple times, a few years in my career where, after the marketing had gotten really good for me, a lot of my business was referral based. And it was just because I was pretty good at staying in touch with my clients. And it blows my mind that people just don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to reach out to their clients. They're leaving so much business on the table.
I think that goes straight to what Ryan Serhant always says: follow up, follow through, and follow back.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it's just like I've heard it, and when I heard him say it and how he explained it, it made a lot of sense. Yep. I'm not a big HGTV guy and that kind of stuff, but this guy knows his shit, and
yes.
Really, really pretty cool. Okay, so what about the person that says, well, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I just, it should work for me. Or is there any room for whiners in this business?
Zero.
Okay, so we've talked about new agents. Go ahead. You're going to say something?
No. I was just going to say, this is a very cutthroat type of business. I mean, we've got 50, 60, 70,000 realtors in the state of New Jersey now. Right. And, unfortunately, it's not one of those things where, you go to one pizzeria over another because they got better pizza, or we're all doing kind of the same thing, but it's a matter of, do people know what you're doing? Do people want to work with you? So it blows my mind. I don't know.
No, absolutely. You look at the number of realtors. I think there's 1.6, 1.65 now. And just in the state of Florida, there's 350,000. New Jersey's around, I think, 60, 70, what you said. It's just an amazing group of people that, there's just, I think it's more 90-10 now than 80-20. Okay, so we've talked about new agents. We've talked about stuck agents. Now I want to get to the agent that's doing that 12 to 24 that wants to scale, but they're on a treadmill. Talk to me about how to push them and elevate them.
I think the best thing that person can do, you're doing 12 to 24 agents, you need to start looking at your business as a business and stop looking at it as just your individual, you're an individual realtor. And so I have a few agents on my team that are, consistently selling 25, 30 homes a year that are struggling to get to the 50, 60 point. And what we're going to start doing with them is I want them to start delegating. Right. And so I want them to have their own assistants, maybe not full time, but I know that for me, that was a huge thing that got me over a big hump when I was able, again, I said to, Chris Walsh at the time was like, you need to hire help, you need to hire an assistant, you need to start delegating. I can't afford it. He's like, no, you can't afford not to do it. That's the only way you're going to grow, because right now you're just, you don't have, and what, doing that 25 deals a year is a tricky place, because you are going to be busy, throughout pretty much the year, every week.
Right.
And I think that you need to start delegating. You need to take one step back or to gain 2 or 3 steps forward. And so if you're doing consistent 20, 25 deals, look to hire an assistant, a virtual assistant. I will tell you what I did that I think has worked out really, really well. It's what I recommend to everybody. I hired a personal assistant / work assistant / buyer's agent, just someone that was a licensed agent that was brand new. They went with me everywhere that I went for the first year. They went on all my showings. They went on every inspection. They went on every listing appointment. When I needed help showing properties, they would show properties. They would sit my inspections for me after they got some experience. They would go to the township and schedule all my COs. They would go pick up all my signs and lock boxes. They would go, get contracts signed, or all of that stuff that was kind of just busy work that takes up a lot of an agent's day. I now put on them. But what I think was the best part of what I did was I didn't pay them a salary. I gave them a percentage of every time I closed a deal. You got 10% off the top of my deal. Now, a lot of people might say, wow, 10%, that's a lot. But I mean, if you think about it at the time, I was maybe grossing $350,000. So, $35,000 isn't a ton of money at the end of the day. And I felt really comfortable with it because I never had to come out of pocket if I wasn't making money. And
Right.
So if I had a slow month or something like that, it wasn't like, oh man, now I have to pay this salary. No, it got taken out of my commissions. I almost just kind of, after some time, forgot about it. And what that did was it freed up so much of my time that I was now able to do a lot more prospecting, a lot more lead generation. And I then doubled my business again.
Right. So it's funny we got into this conversation because, you think about people that we know in the business that we look up to. And over the years, I've met some great people. I want to use 2 as an example. Kyle Whistle, if you know who Kyle is. Kyle's the number 1 video realtor in the country. And his team will do, the Whistle Group. Oh, he'll probably do $400 million in San Diego this year. When he first got into real estate, there's 2 people he hired. He hired an assistant because he knew there was shit he didn't want to do. And the other thing he hired, which is really interesting, he hired a driver. He didn't want to drive anywhere. He wanted to be on the phone doing what he had to do. And earlier today, I listened to a video by a guy by the name of Kenny Trum. Kenny Fast, as he's known, right?
He's very impressive.
The fastest growing real estate organization in this country, right? He's in the Oakland, San Francisco area.
Yep.
And he said, you know what? I don't want you guys to worry about hiring an assistant, hiring a transaction coordinator. How about you look at your business and hire somebody above you? Hire a COO so you don't have to run shit. Let them tell you what to do.
Yep.
So, in that respect, I'm kind of doing the same thing over the next couple of weeks. I'm actually hiring somebody to tell me what to do. So I don't do it anymore, right?
Yep.
I know you talked about the 10% off the top. Very similarly, I don't have to worry about what to do anymore because I know I'm a squirrel hunter, right? Squirrel, right? I'm a squirrel hunter, and look. I got to read this quote from you. For you, it's where is it? Here it is. In life, success is not owned; it's rented, and the rent is due every day.
Yep.
Right. So I look at that and I think about that since I heard that. That's from Michael Reese the other day. I forget who we got it from, but it's important to be able to get shit done.
Yeah.
And if you're going to hem and haw about saying, I'm too busy for this, I'm too busy for that, and you said it really simply, calendar, right? What does your calendar look like? What is the structure of what you're doing, right? I tell my clients, show me your calendar. I want to see it every week we talk, because I show me your calendar, I will tell you what your income is going to be.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
One of the things actually talking about calendars that helped me a ton, and I have it right here. It's next to me at all times. I started carrying around a physical calendar. 6, 7 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago now. And I do not go anywhere without that book. It goes on vacation with me. It's on the passenger side seat of my car everywhere I go. And it forces me to, number one, never forget things, right? Because I feel like I lost a lot of money. I left money on the table just based off of memory and, getting a call when I was in the middle of something and forgetting to call that person back timely enough, losing a potential client, things like that. So now anytime I get a call or anything pops into my head, an idea, anything, I immediately write it down in that book. And I'm now so accustomed to having that book with me everywhere I go and looking at that all day and night that I put every task of my day in there each day. And at the end of the day, I look at it and whatever was accomplished, there's a line through it. Whatever wasn't done, there's not. And so then I have to move that to the next day. And it kind of keeps me accountable with myself, because if I look at that and, majority of things weren't done as opposed to getting them done, I kind of beat myself up for it. I'm like, this is unacceptable, and so then I move those things to the next day. But I think having that physically in front of me is so much more powerful than, just in my head or in my phone or something like that. Like, I want to be able to cross out those tasks, and obviously I'll never cross out a task that wasn't done. And so, if too many days go by that I didn't accomplish those things, I really start to beat myself up. And, I try to end every week with getting every single thing done and starting a new week fresh with new tasks and new things. And so that was something big too, because I never wanted to start a day without every line in that book being filled with something to do, because there's always something to do. Right. And
so, yeah. I mean, talk to me about your exact, what do you just use, a regular date book? Is that it?
Yeah, it's actually, so it's not even a calendar, because I wanted a full page per day, and every calendar that I found just wasn't that way. So it's more like, here, I'll go to a new page. So it's more like it's just a numbered book. So it's just 1 through 26 with like a topic and a date at the top. So I'll just write the day, the date, and then I try to fill every one of these lines with a different task. And there's a little section over here that I can put times if I have certain appointments or notes. And then on the left side of the page, I take my notes for the day, any ideas that I might have. And then as I go along, I put a line through it. And what's actually pretty cool is I've never thrown these books away. So in my basement, I've got stacks and stacks of these going back like, 6, 7 years. And it's interesting sometimes to look back on it and see the things that I was doing and working on. It's fun. But this has been a 100% game changer for my career. And it's so simple.
It's funny, we talk about how to help agents. We went through new agent, stuck agent, growth-minded agent. It all comes down, in my opinion, comes down to your conduct. Your conduct being the time you're spending, what your structure is. Your structure, yes, calendar, but it's also how you start your day. Like, for instance, you talk about books you've kept. I download my head every morning. Maybe it's a sentence, maybe it's a full paragraph, maybe it's a page, right? But I download this shit out of my head because it's things I'm thinking about that I've got to write out. And along with, like with you, Sal, like today I have 2 pages in a book just for our conversation today. Notes I've taken before today and what notes I've taken now. I've got 180 of these, right, that I can actually do something with. But I go back and look at them and say, wow, that was really cool. Or I go back and read them and say, yeah, I remember when I was feeling that way, because not every day is perfect. You start your day with some type of ritual that builds into, health and fitness, mind fitness, whatever it is, but you got to do it. How do you, just really quickly, we're coming up against time, but since I brought this up, how do you start your day?
Well, my days now start differently because I have a son. And so, I have to take care of him and things. But no, my days are pretty much the same. And I used to work out in the mornings every single morning. Now it varies depending on, again, my son. He comes first. But, waking up early, I think, is super important. And that's something that I learned earlier on. I used to be, in the very, very beginning, I used to think, all right, you get to the office 9, 10 o'clock, it's fine. You have the day. But once someone broke it down to me and said, if you were able to wake up, 2 or 3 hours earlier every day and put in those extra hours, because let's face it, most real estate agents are coming to the office at 10 o'clock, if ever. And so if I was there at 7 and I can get an additional 3 hours on everybody, that's like almost an additional full day every week. That's an extra 50 days a year that I have on somebody. And so for me, waking up early was a very big thing. I've always been into, sports, exercising, working out, eating healthy, things like that. And so I always knew that after I exercised or went to the gym, naturally just your endorphins and things, like I always was just in a better mood, more motivated, ready to work. And so I figured, why not start my day that way and position me for the rest of the day? And so once I started waking up real early, going to the gym before my day even started, complete game changer for me. And it also allowed me more time at night to work on personal growth because I had that free time. And so getting real strict with my schedule was really important. I think it was also too, watching like one of these motivational talkers at one point, and there was a video and he was talking to high school kids and he said something along the lines of, you want to sleep more than you want to be successful. You like, and so it hit me and I was like, geez, why am I not waking up 3-4 hours earlier than everybody? I don't need that sleep. I need to be successful. Not wanting to regret anything drives me a lot. Right. And so I was always very fearful that if I didn't succeed and I looked back and said, well, geez, I didn't succeed because I wanted to sleep an extra hour or two. Like to me, that's really pathetic. And so I tried to just eliminate any of those excuses that I thought were just not legitimate.
I love not wanting to regret anything because I always tell people, the pain of discipline is far better than that feeling of regret in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And just one last thing, we've talked a lot about going to the office, right? Mm-hmm. What about those agents that don't have an office, like a lot of independent agents with EXP and agents with other companies that don't really go to the office and it's not a place they want to go? What about them? What do they do? Is it far bigger discipline and principles involved there?
Well, I think two things. I think number one, even if you don't have an office, you should, like we're in like somewhat of a lonely type of business where, we're individual agents. We're not required to be in the office and clock in and clock out. And so, but I think just being around people that are working and motivated and closing deals, like when I have my new agents come into the office that are here and they're surrounded by people that are putting deals under contract, they're talking about negotiations, it inspires them. It's like almost like a friendly competition. But when you're stuck home all day and you're just kind of looking around and no one to compare yourself to, no one to, that's why I like going to the gym as opposed to working out at my home, because there's people there that are more fit than me, that are in better shape, that are doing, that are stronger. And that inspires me to want to do that. And so I think being surrounded by people is very important. If for some reason it's not an option for you and you have to work at home by yourself, I think the most important thing that you can do is to treat it like an actual office setting. And what I mean by that is you should still dress professionally. You should eliminate distractions. You should tell your family, wife, husband, kids, whatever the case is, that, hey, I'm in an appointment, I'm working. If this door is closed, I'm not available. If it's an emergency, you can call me, but far too many people are just way too distracted at home. And it's because they don't set those boundaries. And so, every 5 minutes, their spouse is asking them a question, or they got to get up and do something. And it's just not the same. When people come to the office, they're forced to work, basically. Like, what else are you going to do here?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that we do for a lot of those agents is we actually do a nightly call 6 nights a week to talk about what went on during the day so that people have somewhere to go. Yeah. And these agents have done very, very well. Sal, we're up against the hour. I want to thank you so much for coming on today. Everybody's apologize for my voice. Just a little laryngitis there. I'm fine. No problems. I actually got tested negative. So don't worry about that, guys. But I want to thank you for coming on. And I have 2 questions for you. How do people get in touch with you if they're interested in having a conversation about your business or whatever? How do they get in touch with you?
So if you go to my social media, my Instagram @SalVentre, right in the link there, you can schedule a call with me through the Calendly app. My email is sal@theventre.team. That's also on all my social media profiles. My phone number is everywhere, 732-232-6005. Anyone can call me, text me anytime. So I'm pretty easy to find. You can Google me. You can go to any social media platform. Everything is just Sal Ventre. Very simple. I'm more than happy to hop on a call with anybody.
And I must tell everybody, this is a number 1 guy. Nice guy. He's as nice as he sounds. He's a good man.
I appreciate that, dude. Thank you.
2 things. We're almost done. 1, how can I help Sal grow his business? How can I help you with your business? Dave Finale, how do I do that?
Oh, man. Let's just keep it. Let's keep doing what we're doing. I love these videos. I love the events that we were doing. And you motivate me and inspire me. I every time I talk to you, I take some things away from it and learn from you. So I appreciate it. This is great.
So just the last thing we always get through, you heard about the hat and
I need a hat.
So we just got a brand new set in. We'll be sending you out your hat. I want to thank you for coming on. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and your family.
You too.
God bless you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Just stay on for a second as we go out.
Sure. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.